We have a confirmation of a quorum,
Correct.
correct? Confirmation of the meeting agenda. The meeting agenda tonight is short. We have one presenter for project management oversight, and I think Twig will fill us in on the latest and greatest there.
Yeah.
That's at 6:30. So we have a little time here between now and 6:30. Will give me an opportunity to bring the committee up to speed as far as the Board of Selectmen meeting. I made an appearance before the board on behalf of the committee. Oh, by the way,
Meet
before I get
minutes first.
started, we want to do the minutes.
Yes, the minutes
Yeah,
first.
sorry about that, I jumped ahead. We have the minutes before us from Thursday, October 22nd meeting. They're long. I hope everybody's had an opportunity to go through them. I'd entertain a motion, waive reading and acceptance.
I'd make that motion.
I have some corrections
Yeah, okay. Is there a second on the motion?
to what, to waive reading.
Yeah,
Reading of them.
okay. And accept, but we'll have comments now.
Okay.
You have some revisions or additions?
Yeah, I think I have two revisions. One is I was noted as in number 4 as an abstention from the last meeting. I was here at both, so I didn't abstain.
Okay.
Footnote, or note 4. And I think there's a misquoted number in here as well at item 10. For the PMO, it's $7,800 is in the budget to do the PMO services, which I think is a typo.
It was 76, I think, in the owner's budget for oversight.
It was 76,500, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that's what it was.
Okay, should we make that change, Andy?
It's 76,500, yes.
All right.
Okay.
Any other changes, corrections, or additions? Hearing none. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Thank you. So then I will get back on track here. I did appear on behalf of the committee before the Board of Selectmen. You did receive by email a copy of the presentation outline, and which was titled Exhibit A, and a copy of the presentation cost justification or budget increase justification, which is Exhibit B. I have copies here. If anybody wants to go through this right now, I'd like to hear any comments either tonight or before the Board of Finance meeting, which is going to be on the 1st. We did receive a unanimous vote before the Board of Selectmen as far as the budget increase is concerned. There were not very many questions from the board. Selectman Kiley was complimentary about the work of the committee, concerned about, as was the third selectman, concerned about the fact that we might be building in too much, I'm going to use the term bells and whistles, but we might be making the design better than the original project. And I said we can't help but make it better because we're repairing it and we're going to improve it, and there are going to be decks and ramps and, for example, roof sections that are larger because we're raising the building up. The raising the building up is forcing change, and we're going to accommodate that change. There were questions about landscaping and whether or not we were going to be adding too much landscaping and why we had to have landscaping, and I fielded those questions the best way possible. There weren't too many questions about the cost increase. I did mention that the bids came in $1.2 million over budget when they came in on the original round, that we were looking for a project budget increase of $1,418,290. And then I went through, and I think everybody's got this. Am I speaking to my? If you want a copy of this, do you want a copy? Have you seen this? I hope you've seen it. Sorry. Just take a look at that. I'm sorry. Here I am talking. I haven't passed it out. So to Exhibit B, the first Exhibit A is basically the timeline that I put together, and it just talks about what we went through. It's exactly what you received in an email before the Board of Selectmen meeting. I'm going to work on this a little bit based on the questions before it goes to Board of Finance and RTM. The Exhibit B is what I was just about ready to address, and that's where we break down the 1.4 million budget increase into its major components. 800,000 plus due to the public bidding, the revised public bidding. The $187,000 increase in project contingency, the $95,000 increase due to adding back certain scope items, and I think you remember that. We added back site, landscaping, so forth. Those were going to be carried as alternate adds with the original project, and now we've been able to incorporate them because we're going back for more money. The building committee might remember that what happened to us is as the budgets increased during the progressive budgeting by Shawmut, we started to lose ground on contingency, and I know at least one committee member was increasingly concerned about the fact that we were eating away at contingency before we even started the project. I think so we now are starting the project with about $600,000 worth of contingency, which is just about 10% of the cost of construction, which would be appropriate. And I think we've done a pretty good cleanup through the public bidding process. Ordinarily, you'd be decreasing your contingency about now, and we've increased it. But I know exactly why. I mean, we know the risks. Then we had a $76,000 increase due to the project oversight function, and a $48,000 increase in the CM fee. Those are numbers I'm going to want to have you guys look at on the Shawmut side to check this whole list out before I go before Board of Finance. Kevin is looking at this number of $15,000 of the increase in design and estimating and pre-construction costs related to the redesign schemes 1 through 6. And then we had $24,291 for increase in pre-construction costs related to managing the rebidding, certain bid packages, and resolution of general trades bidders. So that was the past 3 months of. So I'm going to ask Shawmut to go through these numbers because we had to make them work at the last minute, and before I go to the Board of Finance, I'm going to want to go through this presentation. And I'd love to have any committee members read this through right from scratch, like you were listening to it or like you were being presented with this information, and what you might find is a critique of it, what you might.
Just a question,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman. Do you anticipate that Bob Mayer will accompany you at the Board of Finance?
Yes.
Can you use the microphone? Don't forget.
Yeah. Hey, Kevin,
Do you
how are you?
anticipate that the Bob Mayer will accompany? Because my assumption is, and every time I pick up the newspaper, that's all they focusing on is, you know, the FEMA reimbursement, something like that, and I would hope that no one would try to derail the thing by not understanding it, and if Bob's presence there clarifying that should hopefully go a long way to continue to move this along as you've done quite elegantly at the Board of Selectmen. Hopefully you can move it through right to the RTM. But I think people are going to be asking that, and
Yeah.
good. So I'm glad Bob will be attending.
I think both of your comments, the one earlier offline, which was to keep the facts and the present situation, the current situation in the forefront, not to go backwards, and your suggestion now on the record, and that is about Bob Mayer. He did appear. He was on my agenda. You'll see his name on the agenda. I'm planning to use the same presentation agenda. And he did take over, and he did assure the Board of Selectmen that the net cost of the town was approximately $1,200,000, I think was the number he used, or $250,000.
Because I believe the newspaper did, the Citizen that said it somewhere between $900,000 and $1.4 million. I could be mistaken.
I think they, welcome, gentlemen. I think they could be wrong. I think he went right back to his original piece of paper in February where he told the Board of Finance it was between $950,000 and $1.2 million.
Well, good, then maybe I just read the
And
newspaper
he said that
incorrectly.
that's right where we are today.
Good.
That, you know, the project is more expensive, but the reimbursement is higher. And the big problem is the delay. We're right back where we were, but we're 6 months behind. So any comments on the Board of Selectmen presentation?
No, it was a good presentation.
I mean, I don't know whether we could have fewer numbers, more numbers. Take a look at this. We don't have to do it right now, but let's just look at this as far as a committee. If this needs to be rearranged, or one of these numbers means better explanation, or so forth. Did I say it was a quiet night? I guess I didn't. Or you came on your own?
You gave
So
me the
we-
option not to come, and
You came.
I came anyway.
So you'd recognize us. That's what we've been talking about.
Mental health exam.
I wouldn't mind, Kevin, not tonight, but, or anytime. That's the presentation before the Board of Selectmen. I think you probably have already seen it. The numbers, I'm not gonna be shy about adjusting any of those numbers to make sure that they are right up to date and accurate. And I think at the very end, Shawmut and I had to kind of plug numbers together. As far as this last 3 months of effort are concerned. Any questions about the Board of Selectmen presentation? And I will double check with Bob Mayer and the first selectman to make sure that he's there. Because we haven't wanted any part of that, and we've successfully stayed away from it. Any questions on agenda item 5? The meeting dates going forward for the Board of Finance is December 1st at 7:30. I think that's right, Judy. It's the first Tuesday, is it? First Tuesday? Yeah, it is.
I'm in a fog, I don't know, I can't remember anything.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I have notified the chairman and asked to be put on the committee, and he has emailed me back and said yes. The RTM, we have a committee meeting on December 7th, where we're going to need probably 3 or 4 committee members present. Well, the whole committee would be great, but I'd rather not be there as the Lone Ranger. And then we have the full RTM meeting on December 14th. And that would approve funding, and then I believe we have a 14-day waiting period before the project can be signed off by the purchasing authority. So that's where we are on item 5. We now have interviews for project management, the project management oversight function that we're anticipating for this project. And Twig, I don't know whether you have any comments to begin with. We'll just do this interview and talk after. Okay. So gentlemen, I know you just walked in, but we're ready when you're ready. This is one of the interviews for item 6, project management oversight. So if you would start off, introduce yourselves, and we can sit back and listen.
Surely.
As I get it right in the eyes.
Thank you.
Hi, Doug Goulet, nice to meet you.
No. Don't want it shown on my forehead.
Just have to change the input on this. Do you know Twigger should be all set?
I'm sorry?
You have to change the source on this.
Oh, hold on.
That should be all set. I think all you have to
There you
do
go.
is that F4 or whatever the Mark just did.
Just so long as the kids don't show up playing in the pool.
You don't want that.
Yeah, that's cute.
Photo bomb.
The picture was taken at the Pavilion?
It was.
Somebody's drowning in the back.
Trying to get this so that you don't see the second one here.
That's why I have some, over the years, some owners that won't deal with PowerPoint. They want boards. Hmm?
It has its uses, I think.
Yeah.
You go back there, and I think if you do duplication,
Yeah.
it's fine.
You could duplicate it.
That's what I thought it was.
Absolutely.
Well, we can leave it like this, although I just don't know how to get it so that's on the full image. But in the spirit of time,
Yeah.
why don't we get started? So by way of introduction, is this too loud?
It's fine.
You sure? Okay. My name is Mark Skalenka with Collier's International Project Management Northeast. I have an organizational chart that will speak to who we are as we get into the presentation, but to briefly introduce ourselves, with me is...
Okay, Doug Goulet, I'm the construction representative.
And, Chuck Warrington, Senior Project Manager.
So again, thank you for allowing us an opportunity to present our ideas on the project management services for the Penfield Pavilion project. We've got about a 30-minute presentation that we will go through as quickly as possible, and if you want to ask questions during the presentation, I'd be okay with that. If you would prefer to wait until the end, then we're okay with that as well. So first of all, who is Collier's Project Management? Well, we were founded in 1996 as Strategic Building Solutions. You may have heard the name in the past. It was founded exclusively to provide owners representation, owners program management services. We are about 70 plus or minus architects, engineers, construction professionals that really act as the sole interest of representing owners. We're not contractors who do owner's rep. We're not architects who do owner's reps. We really are purely an owner's representation firm. This is all the firm wants to do, and it's all we have been doing again since 1996. We have offices in Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, Pennsylvania, as well as Washington, D.C. Our main office is in Madison, Connecticut, 45 minutes up the road. And then back in April, we were acquired by Collier's International, which is a commercial real estate brokerage firm. They wanted to offer to their clients project management services. They didn't have it. So if you're familiar with CBRE and JLL, those types of services are provided by those firms. Collier's wanted to be able to provide their clients project management. So they acquired us and starting to develop that side of the business. But the three of us sitting here don't do that. That's not our business. Our business is representing municipalities in either education projects or other types of municipal projects as your owner's project managers. So the type of projects that we are involved with, again, it ranges from a variety of market sectors. The image up on the screen depicts three major categories. It's government and municipal work, medical laboratory research, as well as education. Not the clearest of images, I apologize for that, but the ones that are highlighted, I just want to focus in on a bit. The first is Meg's Point Nature Center at Hammonasset Beach in Madison, Connecticut, as well as the West Beach Pavilion in Hammonasset. Two projects that Doug and myself are currently working on. Very relevant, very close connection to your Penfield Pavilion project. The other ones that I want to reference are Fairfield base. Riverfield Elementary School, we acted as the owner's project management firm for that project. Chuck was the project manager for the last year or so on that successful project. And Sacred Heart University, we have been on that campus for probably 8 years, managing all of their major capital construction projects. Not sure how sustainability factors into this particular project, but if it was important to you, we are a leader in the sustainable arena. I'm a LEED accredited professional. As you can see from some of the numbers and the graphics on the screen, we have many, many projects that are LEED or high performance based. And we have a commissioning entity of our business that is heavily involved with sustainable design and construction projects and from the energy perspective. So if sustainability was important, as it is to a lot of clients and municipalities, we certainly are a leader in that market. In terms of the organizational chart and how we have planned to represent the town of Fairfield on the Penfield project, we have myself listed as the senior director who would provide general oversight of the delivery of our services to the town. Chuck Warrington, a senior project manager, would be your project manager. He would be the interface between the building committee and the project. Doug Goulet represented himself as the construction representative. He would be on site during construction, doing the daily visits, and supporting Chuck. In addition, we've got other individuals, as I referenced earlier, because we are a team-based approach. Frank Baldino's one of our mechanical engineering directors, who serves a role with many of our clients looking at mechanical systems to make sure that what's designed and ultimately constructed meets with the plans and specifications. He has a specific focus on mechanical systems. And Julie Trella is our financial analyst who works with our project managers and our town clients to make sure that the project finances that we are tracking tie to the town dollars that are being expended. So in terms of specific projects, I just wanted to highlight a few, and I'm going to have Doug Goulet talk to the first two projects here.
All right, the first one here is Meg's Point Nature Center at Hammonasset Beach State Park, Madison. It's a new nature center adjacent to the existing one. It is right on the water, and it is surrounded by environmentally sensitive areas, all marshes that are there.
There's the
So
center right here.
Great.
Visitor parking, beach is right here.
Correct.
So you can see there's a lot of activity. The construction zone was, again, right here. So we'll talk about the complications between, a beach pavilion project when we get to your specific project.
Right. So Meg's Point it's a 4,000 square foot facility. Construction cost on it is about $2.5 million with $3.7 million total budget on it. Project we started last May, it'll go through next April. So we're making good progress on it right now. It is a concrete foundation, steel structure building. The biggest problems we've had there so far, and it's relevant to you, again, is with being right in the middle of everything close to the beach, is just public safety. With the existing nature center being active right adjacent, we've had to really maintain the public, signage and fencing and everything else, and controlling that. Being an environmentally sensitive area, maintaining erosion control, stormwater management has been a big thing.
Who's the contractor on that?
Secondino from Branford. Yep. Next one is the West Beach Pavilion. This also, this was an existing facility that was destroyed during Hurricane Irene. So they've cleaned everything up, the remaining foundations, and we're building a new concession stands, locker rooms, shower facilities. It started again last May, goes through next April. It is about 4,000 square feet as well between the two buildings. And the budget on that is $7.1 million total, and the construction is about $4.5 million. It's timber pile foundation, all wood frame construction. There was a lot of site work, new parking lots, septic systems, massive amount of landscaping going on. But again, being right on the beach, as you can see where we are, the existing one is pretty close to where the new one kind of ends up. You're right on the beach. Again, public safety, because the public is so used to cutting through the site that even with construction fences up, they just ignore signs, they ignore fences, and they walk right through. So public safety has been a big issue to maintain and be on top of. And, you know, once we were able to keep pretty good control of it, but it was a learning curve even for the public. Just again, being a lot of environmentally sensitive areas there, so just controlling stormwater and erosion control has been a big thing. And one of the biggest things we've learned from this, or I've learned from this, is this with timber piles, just maintaining, monitoring the installation has been critical, and just having a testing lab there to, you know, be on top of it and make sure, you know, being constant, talking with the engineers to make sure they're happy and we're getting the proper installation. So, so.
Okay, some of you may be familiar with this project, sorry. This is Riverfield Elementary School over on Mill Ponds Road. I've been on that for the last year, working extensively with that building commission. You may know Tom Quinn. We've developed a great relationship with him, excellent communication. It's been a very successful project. Also working with Fairfield Public Schools, Sal Morbido. Again, this project we're going to be completing next month, and it's on schedule, it's on budget. It's been due to a collaborative team effort between Collier's, Fairfield Public Schools, the building commission, the town, and administration and the CM. So we have a really good team, and that really is, I think, is shown in the success of that project. So we're looking to wrap that up next month, close out a couple months after that, and hopefully continue our involvement in Fairfield with this project.
So we took a ride over to the site prior to the interview just to get a sense of really what the project is, and what a beautiful building. And it's too bad, you know, what happened to it during the storm. So what we know, garnered through the RFP, is, you know, it's a demolition reconstruction of the building, the east wing and the west wing. Just over $6 million of total project budget, about a 23,000 square foot building. Back when we proposed, the plan was to break ground probably in September and be done by May. But knowing where we are today, I'm sure the likelihood of it being done by May is not great, but sometime in 2016 would be ideal. But again, a very, very attractive building, and hopes that we can restore it back to what it was before the storm.
So some of the challenges we see with this, we think it mirrors closely with the West Beach in Hammond, given its close proximity to the beach, and the fact that you know, we're going to have to, public safety will be number one, obviously, given how close it is, monitoring with the contractor. We understand we've worked with Hammond. They're a good CM firm, so we expect them, you know, to perform on a high level. But we understand there's the Jessica Rico's playground that's highly sensitive, so we'll be closely monitoring that and the protection of that, and working with the CM to make sure that that is properly protected as well. As Doug alluded before, it's a timber pile foundation design, so we have familiarity with that and the need for the quality control and the quality assurance associated with that type of foundation plan. Erosion control, given we're at a beach, I think that kind of goes unspoken. It's highly sensitive with you know, natural resources directly adjacent, and then we're directly adjacent to a neighborhood, so construction noise, dust, and any type of light or dust type of pollution is of high sensitivity, and that was similar at Riverfield Elementary School, where we were bordered on three sides of the project, and we're constantly aware of any potential effects to the adjacent neighborhoods when we're, you know, putting on roofs and so forth, and the fumes we were very sensitive to those. And we actually walked the neighborhood with the CM, with Gilbane, to put our cards out. And if there's any concerns, direct us to contact us directly, and we would propose a similar approach here, that if they have any questions, to call myself at any time. They'll have my personal cell phone. So if there's any issues, we'll address them immediately, but hopefully we won't have to get to that point. So at Collier's, as Mark mentioned, we take a team-based approach. Mark, myself, and Doug, we're gonna be the direct team that will be working hopefully with you. But we also have a large staff of approximately 70 professionals that are architects, engineers, financial analysts, commissioning agents, mechanical engineers, balancers. So we have a wide array of expertise for that. So we approach all our projects with this multi-discipline staff. If I have a question, I mean, my strength, I'm a civil engineer, structural, site, some architectural, but there's others that are expert in other areas, and I have that resource available to our team if we need to pull them in on that. So our role with the town, very similar to the Riverfield. We work with this building committee, hopefully, to help you oversee and manage this project. Our role is the day-to-day basis and to report to you. Also supporting the staff, interfacing. We understand Department of Public Works has a stakeholder in this as well. They're going to be performing some work on their own, so we'll help to coordinate that with Shaman Construction as well. We'll be at all the building committee meetings as we do at Riverfield. I will be attending every meeting, providing reports as necessary to you, submitting invoices, hopefully minimal change orders. We prefer none, but we know that's the nature of the beast. But presenting those to you in a timely manner so you can assess those prior to the meeting and taking any action on those. And again, our role is the day-to-day oversight to assist you in getting this project done successfully and being your eyes and ears out there in the field. So we understand that you're currently, the GMP is in process with Shaman. And we have extensive experience with the review of GMP contracts, reviewing the allowances and exceptions and clarifications, and we're familiar with the A133s, the A201s, all the AIA contracts. We have extensive, Mark is our contract specialist. I'm very familiar with them, and reviewing their budget to ensure that it's matching up with the town budget. So we're available for that as well. There's three core areas that we focus on at Collier's. It's cost, quality, and schedule, and we'll get into some slides that address those specifically, but we do have measures in place that monitor those and make sure that we're staying on time, on schedule, and within the budget, and to ensure that you're receiving what's in the contract documents and what's been promised by the CM. And most importantly, again, we've mentioned coordinating the construction activities with the beach activities to hopefully we will minimize the disruption. It will be known that it's there, obviously, but the goal is to minimize it and to build this facility and allow beachgoers to enjoy that facility as much as possible. So in project management systems, we're familiar with many different systems throughout the project. We're going to be doing site inspections, ensuring RFIs and submittals are being returned in a timely manner and not delaying the project schedule. We'll be attending all the OAC meetings as well as being out in the field. There's a couple reports, some sample reports that are on the screen. We will also provide financial management. We have a very extensive financial management system that we track all the project budgets, soft costs and hard costs, and ensuring that the project doesn't go over budget with you. And if we're approaching that, we'll address that with you. This is a snapshot of our financial management, our financial status report. At the top is the construction, that's your hard costs, and then below are all your expenses. This is just a very abbreviated report, but the ideal is to make sure that we're on budget. Down the lower right-hand side, you see 00. That indicates we're on budget, and that's the ultimate goal through any project. This is a more detailed breakout. You can see many different line items of the expenses. There's printing, there's testing, the architect's fees, our fees, contractor fees. We track all those costs, and we're very good at doing that and reporting to you. It's real-time management. Anytime if you request what's the status of our budget, we're in this file on a daily, every other day basis, so it's always current. Pay apps, this is just an example. When the contractor submits their pay application, we're going to first review the schedule of values to make sure it's in line with how the work's going to proceed, so that as they bill on a monthly basis, that we're not overpaying to the contractor, and we expect the CM to diligently go through their sub-trade contractors and do it themselves, but we're going to do it as well for each requisition, and that includes architect's requisitions. If you ask us to do so, we check that against our contracts for that. So once that goes through, we give it back to them, and we bring it to approval. Change orders. We're very aggressive with not only tracking what the change orders the CM is reporting, but also as we're out in the field and Doug's out in the field, or for meetings, we hear contractors talking, and we feel there might be an exposure to the project that can cost. We're going to add it to our contingency log as a pending exposure. You'll see in the bottom there's a lot of white lines that are called pending. They may pop up, they may not. They may end up being no cost at all, but we want to capture that exposure and be able to keep it in the forecast so that as we go through the project, we're not overextending ourselves in the budget. I'll pass it to Doug for quality control.
Okay. When I'm out in the field, I'll be walking around with the plans and have access to the specs, so know what we're supposed to be getting. So if I see anything that differs or any issues that arise, we're going to put it onto the our construction tracking log, and basically it'll be issued to the contractor. We'll discuss it at the meetings, and it'll be followed through until it's a closed out issue. And essentially, it's going through and making sure you're getting what you paid for. So with that, nothing's running over, being missed, whatever.
So for this project, as the owner, you've already established an overall project schedule, and we're coming in just at the time where construction's starting, but you've established a schedule. As we go into construction, the CM is going to submit a detailed project schedule. We're going to review that for you. We're going to make sure that, does the schedule make sense? Does it incorporate all the elements of the contract that are required to get us to that substantial completion date and through occupancy. We'll review it. We'll come up with a detailed list of comments to the contractor for them to respond as we go through. And as we go through construction, we're going to monitor that against the progress in the field. We're going to review 2-week look-aheads. We're going to revisit that at every OAC meeting, make sure they're tracking on schedule. And if they're not tracking on schedule, request a recovery schedule. How are you going to get back on track? How are you going to get this back so we're going to achieve the finish date? And then if there's any FF&E requirements, we'll coordinate with the FF&E vendors, with the contractor schedule to make sure that, number one, that any quotes that are received, we get them in on time so that we can, there's usually 8 to 12 week, lead time on FF&E, and we can have that delivered so that occupancy isn't delayed.
So I'll cover the last few slides. Building commissioning, I know it's not something specifically requested, but as I mentioned, we do have commissioning agents on staff. We have MEP support. It is a service that we can provide. It is a service that we can monitor, and if commissioning isn't provided or necessary, again, having the MEP engineers and the control engineers on staff, we can bring them in at a moment's notice to review anything that's being installed as part of Doug's reviews for quality assurance measures. But more importantly, just to confirm systems are operational. So when the facility is ready to be turned over, we want to make sure that the mechanical systems work, the hoods work, whatever is necessary. So going in, being proactive during construction to ensure they do operate on day one is a focus of ours. Closing out our project could be lengthy. We try and be proactive with project closeout. It's one of our pre-construction agenda items. So before they even break ground, we're talking about how and why we need to close out the project as expeditiously as possible. But once we get into maybe the midpoint of construction, we'll have a specific closeout meeting that covers all of the necessary items to be turned over at the end of the project. So ultimately, all the deliverables are turned over, the contractor can be paid, the punch list is resolved, and you can enjoy this new facility for the next 50 years. So the last slide here, just I want to speak to you briefly, why we think we're the right firm for you. We have an understanding of coastal projects, as you heard from Doug in Madison. We do have town of Riverfield experience, which we think is valuable. successful experience, I should note. We do focus strictly on owner's representation. We work with CMs, we work with GCs, we work with many designers. They understand the level of service that we provide and the benefit that we provide to them. We do have the in-house MEP expertise to draw upon when necessary. The lead is important, or our sustainability. We have that experience. The financial, the schedule, the quality assurance measures, everything that we need to see to a project being successfully completed, we have at our disposal in-house. We don't have to outsource any of that. And again, having architects, engineers, construction professionals, at our fingertips, certainly makes it a benefit to most of our clients. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you for offering us the time, and we'd love to answer any questions you may have.
Get the lights. Thank you. I think we can kill that, right?
Yeah.
Might be helpful if we introduced ourselves. Why don't we just start and go right around the table?
I'm Mark Vincent with Shawmut Construction.
Ryan McDonald with Shawmut Construction.
Kevin Chamberlain with Stefano Chamberlain, project architect and structural engineer.
Andrew Graceffa.
Jim Bradley?
Jane Nelson.
David Zeef.
And Steve Pitnello.
We have a 9-member committee. We're a little short tonight, but we've been blessed with the fact that over the past several months of planning, we've had 100%, just about 100% participation. Got a knowledgeable committee between engineering, design, construction management, you name it. This is a much more heavy-duty committee than the size of the project warrants, but maybe not. Maybe this project did warrant the kind of effort that went into it. I don't know. It's been controversial as a project and hard to get off the ground. So how would you like to proceed? Questions from us, or?
Absolutely.
Okay. You want to start your end, Steve?
Sure.
So the one thing, so from my vantage point as part of the committee, what I see a big focus maybe is assisting the building committee as a liaison between Shawmut and the town officials relative to FEMA reimbursement and quantification of cost and helping them out. What's your guys' experience, the proposed team's experience with FEMA reimbursement and that type of segregation of costs?
I don't know if I've had any personal experience with FEMA. With the state of Connecticut on the Hammond project, was there FEMA money involved there?
No. I mean, there may be some of the background, but nothing we've been involved with.
Yeah, I don't have any FEMA experience directly, because this is a unique.
Right, okay, which is fine. I think since you guys are here and we're already near a GMP, so a lot of the pre-con work has already been done, hopefully. So look at Shawmut. And I'm just going to ask a few, Jim, and I'll pass down the line, but how about your guys' experience with either Shawmut or DeStefano and Chamberlain? Do you guys have any previous experience with?
Yeah, Shawmut, I know we worked with Shawmut back at Mount Holyoke College. I'm trying to think where else we've worked with Shawmut.
We're actually working currently with you at the Sacred Heart University, the
Oh, that's right.
dormitory project.
Yeah, that's right. Right, the residence hall project.
And my other question, and maybe it's jumping to the end too quickly, Jim, but, so I appreciate the team approach. I understand that. So it's a compounded question. The 70 people you talk about, are they all in Madison?
No.
That's okay.
If they are, we're in big trouble.
I was going to say.
We're scattered throughout southern New England, whether it's Westchester, New York, all of Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. That is the majority of our 70-person staff. And it's a split between project management and commissioning. It's probably a 50-50 split, to be honest with you.
Okay. So understanding the team approach and looking at your fee proposal, where do you see the allocation of time being split between yourself as the executive, the project manager construction, the finance, given if I read the proposal, the fee proposal correctly, it's about 15, I'm thinking it's about 15 hours a week, roughly. So how do you
Yeah,
guys
so-
see that?
So my time and the support time is built into our rates. So, I mean, we'll be out here, but you won't necessarily see a line item for my time or the financial analyst time or the MEP support time. Really, those hours are for Chuck and for Doug. And I don't recall the exact split. I know that RFP requested 2 site visits a week. We probably can handle more than 2 site visits a week, to be honest with you, because we're constantly going through Fairfield to various projects. So we probably 8 and 8 or 8 and 7, something like that is what we anticipated.
Okay, so that's the clarification, because I was looking at the org chart, the same one you showed, and then the rate sheet, which is for everybody. So if this extends, which it looks like, I'm not saying it's going to extend, but right now, I think what was in the RFP, the time may be additional month, maybe, than what the schedule shows right now. So you guys do T&M billing for 2 people through the project, or do you, and then if we extend, do we get everyone then being charged on a T&M basis?
No.
It's still 2 people?
It would be the same rate per month. So if the project was extending out a month, it could in theory be the same rate for the 2 for that additional month. You wouldn't get additional billings if the project went beyond the 2 that you received for the first 8 or 9 or 10 months.
So you guys would prefer a monthly flat fee? Is
No,
that-
it doesn't have to be. It could be, and that's how it is at Riverfield. But the point is, if the project was extended, you would still be getting the rates for these 2. And my time, Julie's time, Frank's time are buried in the rates for them.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you. I'll let somebody else talk.
Recognize this is a question coming from a bean counter, not anything else. As you said, you spent some time looking at the project. What is the biggest risk on this project? What should the people at this table be worried about? You've said you built the project. The thing that surprised me is I assume all the money that came to build that project on the Pavilion, that none of it was FEMA money?
Some of it may be, but again, it was all being handled through the Department of Administrative Services.
Okay, you just didn't get involved in it.
I'm not involved in that aspect.
So
I don't know where the money.
Go back to my question. As you look at it, and since you people are going to help us, if we hire you, manage the projects, what is the biggest risk we face in doing this project?
Well, I think, as we talked about with some of the challenges, is creating that safe zone of the construction zone versus the beach community. It sounds like to me that the project's going to go through the summer, and I don't know what the plan is for the beach, if you're going to close it off or if you're going to maintain use of the beach while the construction's ongoing. But the single most challenge we saw when we were walking through was how, executing that construction, yet maintaining the playground and the beach access, and making sure that it's a safe, secure zone. As Doug mentioned, at Hammond Asset, people would just wander, and then when you have kids, like I have little kids, and they see construction equipment and mounds of dirt, they're just going to, so making sure that perimeter is as tight as possible is going to be paramount to the success of this project. Nothing else seemed too extreme, from our vantage point.
Right.
Moving that west wing to reconstruct the foundation, when you've got the trees and the mound, that may be a bit of a challenge, but I'm sure that's been figured out, how that was going to work. But everything else, nothing seemed to...
One of the concerns that I seem to have, and these people have been educating me at, is the fact that we've had a building that's been sitting there for a while. And you're going to lift it up, it's going to be back, and we don't know what we're going to find when we put it back. You don't see that as the biggest risk on this project?
A lot of it comes from what has been done prior to this point in terms of the exploratory, services. I don't know how involved Stefano and Chamberlain got in terms of their probing and digging in to see what's there. The building's not that old when it was originally built. If this was a 1950s building and you had no idea, then yeah, there's a potential for hazardous materials or other sorts of unknown conditions. But I believe it was built in 2010, around that time frame. I don't know how involved you got in terms of digging around, below floor structures or ceilings or walls, but I don't, at this point, if you're looking to break ground soon, I hope a lot of that stuff has already been vetted out, and I suspect it has been with your team.
One last question, since the chairman has accused me as being most concerned about the, how much contingencies. Have you looked at the project? Do you feel comfortable that we've provided adequate contingencies?
Well, we didn't get access to the total project budget, and so I don't know what you have allocated for contingencies, but a project of this size, 5 to 10% seems probably like the right amount. But again, we have not seen access to the budget.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I got this one. Could you just explain a little bit more, what did you do exactly for the safety around the site, especially as you addressed with the children, as you said, coming up and
Well, it
playing?
was when the project originally first started, I mean, contractors are used to leaving gates open and not being very good about buttoning up any gaps in the fence. They'll go, on this project, we had a movable panel fencing, so they'd move something, wouldn't close it up quite completely. And where the site is, used to be the old parking, and people are just creatures of habit, so they didn't want to walk around the site. They were walking same way they always did before, so they would find an opening in a fence and just go on through. So that was one of the biggest challenges, was just going around on a regular basis, making sure that gates were closed, fences were put back in place, tie-wired, lots of signage, all that type of stuff. That was really the biggest thing that we had to do initially, and once that was kind of ingrained to maintain that, it really kind of, the problems kind of really minimized.
So did
So-
you vet any of the workers, especially since they'll be around children?
At that time, no.
Or add additional
Again,
security, or?
No, nothing for that.
So as you looked at our plan, and so you said you didn't get a chance to look at the budget yet?
No.
It has not been forwarded to us.
Okay. So how much time do you think it will take you to look at the budget, look at the plan, and come back to us with anything that you see is an issue?
Next week,
Well,
within a week.
within a week?
Yeah.
Okay. And in your other project, once again, talking about safety and being around children, did you add anything to that project? Because you said you're only going to be on site a couple times a week. Did you add someone there that's every day? Did you?
On the other project, I'm there full-time, because we're doing multiple projects within the park. So I'm there all the time.
The state of Connecticut mandated they wanted somebody there full-time. The request for proposal suggested only a couple times a week. We'll be here almost every day, popping in, because we go through Fairfield quite often between the Sacred Heart work and just the work we do in Fairfield County. We'll be there more than 2 days a week.
Okay. I just think it's something that we had not thought about to that extent, and so we as a committee should probably take a look at that and make sure that we're providing the appropriate safety.
If you don't mind me adding to that a little bit, certainly it's a collaborative effort with Hammond as a CM. It's not certainly one fold with just your owner's rep. It's a collective effort with the project team, I think, and walking that site. I think an important aspect, not only just you looking at the site, but communication and working up a site plan collectively and getting the word out there, whether it's a town website, to educate them of here's the boundaries, here's the parking, here's the access to it. And we're talking about Riverfield, we had those challenges because there's local neighborhoods, and we had to fence off major areas of that, and it was a disruption to, parents were like, they're used to that certain path, they wanted to walk through the fields and come around, but we had a construction entrance, and it's a tough decision, but it was safety first, and we had parents that were, frankly, they're very irate at that, we have to walk around. Well, when we have triaxle trucks coming through, the building committee chair, Tom, he was very supportive in that we need to reroute you. But it was a communication effort too, and we find when you educate the community and the people around the project, it typically allays the concerns, and they'll hopefully work with you.
Thank you.
I think I only have one question, since the safety concerns were primarily, I think, addressed at quite length. We have some commissioning on this project, correct? Or is was commissioning not included at all in the budget? I've got experience. I have project experience with SBS on previous projects. I'm an architectural consultant. So I know I've worked with you guys on as in a commissioning capacity before you were Colliers. At what point, or I would be interested to know during the construction process, having an open line of communication for the need for commissioning services, whether it be, obviously from you guys or bidding out commissioning services on this project. I'm slightly nervous about the existing equipment, starting up correctly, operating correctly, being there over time. So that's something that I would. It's not really a question. It's more of just that's a concern of mine going forward.
Yeah, I mean, again, having the in-house commissioning, if the need ever arose to look at something, to run it through a cycle, to start it up, we can provide that at a moment's notice.
Right. Have somebody come out just to take a look at things, to have come out and look at the equipment and evaluate it and say, if they think it's in decent condition or not.
Yeah, I think it's something that should be on our radar, sort of as we go through the project and have a sense from you guys based on what you're experiencing on the site, the need and the necessity for it. I think it's important.
Kevin, from your perspective, from the design and structural and architectural side for this project, is there anything that you wanted to question or add or suggestions in this particular point of discussion here, presentation?
We've worked with SBS, your predecessor firm, before, and
We miss them too.
I guess I would just remind the committee that in addition to project oversight function and the construction manager, you do have us in a full construction phase services support. So myself or one of my engineers will be on the site, dare I say, almost every day, because we're 5 minutes from the job site, and we're also going to be doing all the special inspections of the pile driving, the grade beams, the framing, the steel. So we're going to have a lot of site time as well. So sounds like you're going to have a lot of eyes on the project.
Rich, you have?
Yes, I do. I assume that there is going to be a daily report generated by site visits.
Yes.
What's the turnaround time on your reporting?
Usually go
Daily.
Yeah.
So as we walk the site, we jot down our notes.
Email, or how are you going to do that?
Usually email is the best way. We can hard mail anything, but usually we collect them, we have them on our network. We can share them with the committee on a daily basis or end of the week basis. We can do an executive level monthly report, executive level weekly report. Whatever you want, Rich, we can provide you.
Well, I think what we're interested in getting is a quick turnaround on a report, so if something's going awry, we know about it immediately.
If something's going awry, Shamit will know while we're there. They'll get a copy of our notes so they can react to that. And then the hard copy would follow shortly
I
thereafter.
assume that you're going to give that to the superintendent on the job. I'm talking about the committee itself.
Yes, absolutely.
The second question I have is, on the $7.1 million project, the West Beach project,
Yes.
what's your current expenditure on the budget, your budget?
When you mean our budget, what do you mean by that, Rich? Our fees or the construction budget? I guess in clarification of the question.
What have you billed? The project has 1 month duration, right?
Yeah, on that particular project, we're billing a flat rate per month based upon the staffing that we're providing. So it's not an hourly with a not to exceed, and so I can't say it's 58% or 72%, but on a monthly basis, we'll be done in March. So we started in June,
We started
May.
in May.
So maybe we're 60, 70% through?
What was the question, though, was what was?
I don't know if the committee heard the answer. I didn't hear it.
Yeah, are you looking for their fee, Rich?
No, I'm looking for the final amount that to date that they have billed on a project that has a similar monetary value, and I would assume is going to get the similar amount of policing.
No, that's not, Rich, so what we talked about earlier, maybe you didn't hear, is we're providing full-time on-site coverage for that project. The state of Connecticut specifically wanted somebody there full-time, 8 hours of 5 days a week. So it wouldn't be anywhere near the same rate that we're proposing here, because this specific RFP wanted part-time.
Okay. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have 3 proposals here. Could you just tell me, rather than me go through the book, what you're proposing as far as fee for your services?
70, you want the value?
Yeah. Okay, I got the spreadsheet right here.
76,500 is the estimated not to exceed value.
Okay, good. And I wasn't sure I heard, the FEMA funding may be involved in this Hammond project?
It may be,
It may
but
be.
You don't
because
know.
it's state of Connecticut Department of Construction Services driven, we were similarly hired for construction phase services only, providing very similar services, like full-time versus part-time. We don't know how they're securing the funding and how they're,
Right.
Have you done a project where there's been grant or government funding?
many. I mean, Riverfield is publicly funded by the state of Connecticut. So we have,
How about federal government?
yeah, we do work with the federal government quite a bit, actually.
Has your firm been involved in any of the FEMA consulting that's been going on since Sandy?
I can't think of any that jump out, no.
Okay. So let's just take us 2 or 3 months into the project. There's work going on in the field. Tell us about a typical week in that month, an average week. Who would be there and what would they be doing?
So Doug will be there probably 3 or 4 days a week, popping in, walking the site, talking to Shamit, you know, what are the hot issues, doing a daily report. In addition to that, Chuck and Doug will both be at the owner-architect-contractor meetings that weekly, bi-weekly, whenever those are, so you'll have 2 of us there during those meetings. At the same time, we'll be reviewing, you know, proposed change orders, pay applications, invoices, anything that is related to project finances we'll be tracking on a daily basis. I'll be popping in occasionally, since it's, you know, in my travels, my path of travels. We'll be coming to building committee meetings, giving you executive level reports, financials, schedule, whatever you need from us outside of Shaman or your architect. And that's that's honestly what we do every day for all of our clients. It's that constant on-site observation, tracking the submittals in the RFI. So we're at an OAC meeting, architect, owner, contractor meeting, and we know that RFI 52 is hot, you know, and it's going to come back Friday. You know, Chuck or Doug will make sure that we're on track to get the RFI back by Friday. You know, it's about managing the process.
Typically, how do you keep your owner informed?
You know, it varies from owner to owner, to be 100% honest with you. I mean, why don't you speak to how you kept Tom informed for the Riverfield project?
Yeah, I mean, specifically Riverfield, because it's so close with Mr. Quinn. We would talk on the phone, and we would, obviously at the OAC meetings, and at the very beginning of the job, we would just sit down, and I ask every building committee chair, or whoever the owner is representing the committee, you know, what are they looking for? Because every committee is different. They want to communicate differently. Do you want us to email the whole entire committee? Do we want to funnel it through the building committee chair? But we sat down early on that project, so I understand what he's looking for. Somewhat more detail, somewhat less detail. At the OAC, at the building committee meetings, we do a report since the last meeting. I believe these are every other week, that I understand. So there's a brief report of what has occurred since the last meeting. Every 2 weeks, it's a little bit brief, it's more brief. But not only Tom, but also Sal Morbido from the school side, as the owner and the person who's going to be maintaining it, we like to make sure that whoever's going to be maintaining this at the end of the day is aware of what's going on as well, because they have a stakeholder in that. So it's email, it's direct cell phone contact. With that, I update him on the financials, especially as we're reading towards the end. We're talking probably every other day to make sure, because we're trying to trim up the budget, find out where we can afford certain change orders that are, some are wants, some are needs, as we approach it. The key thing is just open communication. And again, each building committee is different. He likes the controls committee and funnel through them, and he distributes out to his members. Some like us to distribute fully.
Okay. It seems to me, Kevin, Chummet, and whoever we pick, that we, in the very beginning, we would sit down and make sure we understood who was doing what, so that we get the most for our money. Because we don't want people stepping over each other, or the same report from 3 different entities, or whatever. The size of is it Hammond Park? Is that where you were?
Yes.
Are? The size of that project, square foot area?
The buildings?
Yeah.
Both of them are about 4,000 square feet.
So it's about an 8,000 square foot
Well,
project?
the one at West Beach is 2 small buildings totaling about 4,000 square feet. One's about 1,500, the other's about 2,500.
What makes up the $7 million? Those 2 buildings?
No. There was a huge parking lot that completely got redone, septic fields that were created, massive amount of landscaping to recreate.
We don't have a match?
Yeah.
No, okay.
So, I mean, as far as that general scope, no, but cost-wise, yes.
Have you worked with Shawmut before?
I personally have not, no.
We have
The
as a firm.
the company has, but I personally have not.
And you would say the same thing, you've worked with, who's?
Yeah, I'm currently working with their firm at Sacred Heart, the dormitory project.
And what would you add to this discussion with your experience?
A very professional firm. We have a very good working relationship with them. Great set of additional eyes on a project.
Typical building committee, whether it be school or something else, how often do your building committees meet? Once a month, twice a month?
Most, I'm at building committees every week, but most of them meet on a monthly basis. Some are every other week. It depends really on the project, the phase of the project. I think with this one being a condensed schedule and the sensitivity to it, I can understand they are every other week. Most of them are on a monthly basis.
Have you worked with a subcommittee of the building committee as far as change order management
Absolutely.
is concerned?
Yeah, we typically work with and recommend a finance subcommittee that we can review the change orders in detail, go through, vet them out. We've already vetted them and go through in detail so they can ask the questions and hopefully come to this meeting, and that committee can make the recommendations that they reviewed it, and so hopefully expedite your typical building committee meeting.
How do you manage safety? Because the responsibilities really rest with the construction manager, and yet there you are.
Mm-hmm.
Do you make recommendations directly to them?
Yes, we never give direction. We'll always go to the superintendent or the project manager on site, unless it's an immediate inherent risk. I mean, if for example, we're talking about children. If I see children walking across the street and I see the excavator, I'm going to stop the excavator. I don't care. I'm not going to wait and go for an immediate risk. But if we see something that we feel might be an OSHA, as you said, they're responsible for that. However, we will highlight that to them.
You document that every time you see something which could be a safety issue or a hazard?
It depends. It honestly depends on the severity. If it's a severe violation, and we see it occurring over and over, and with some other contractors, GCCMs, we have greater concerns with them. So we will document. We've actually written formal letters that we copy the building committee, we copy the owner, we copy the town manager as the risk holder, to make them aware of the situation. If they're less egregious in nature, hard hats, safety glasses, ladders, trenches are a big one, and typically we'd cover that in the OAC meeting ahead of time of what the expectation is. So with a good CM, we expect them to have a good safety record, and they should have a plan in place to address that.
Right.
And the commissioning, Kevin, do we not have some benefit built into the engineers that we've retained for this project as far as startup?
Well, it's a little bit different on this project because a lot of the systems are already there. So the scope of work for the project is basically recommissioning them, firing them back up, cleaning them, testing them. So what most people refer to as commissioning that you do after a new system is built, make sure it's performing adequately. No, we don't have that. But we do have a lot of requirements in there for the trade contractors to test everything and for the mechanical engineer and electrical engineer to come out and witness it. So it's not your usual situation, I guess, is what I would say.
Right.
Have those engineers going through and inspect like ductwork as if they've been sitting there for a while, you'd think of mold may possibly.
Well,
humidity,
nothing's been cut open,
Okay.
but, the mechanical and electrical guys have been through the building numerous times. I've been through the building numerous times, both inside and underneath.
Yep.
So,
Electrical
we're aware
panels
of
are
where the
okay.
systems are, what they are, and the condition they're in generally.
good.
Nobody has done any cutting and opening up.
Sure.
It's dry.
We're aware, and
Right, good.
you may not be, we're certainly aware that we're going to have a component of clarification of reimbursable and non-reimbursable costs, or the tracking of reimbursable and non-reimbursable for FEMA. We've been given specific direction about bookkeeping or accounting as far as this project's concerned, and to make sure that we can justify the cost when it comes to FEMA reimbursement. That's something which could be included in your work. It's really going to be the segregation. It really seems to me to be a formatting issue as much as anything else, but it's going to take some doing.
Certainly. We do it with the state now, with OSF state, or
Well, you're going to be,
SCG.
it's going to be more than the school system.
Yeah, and we're prepared to do that with the systems we have in place.
Okay.
Our financial analyst can create whatever cash flow, ineligible, eligible worksheets required by any regulatory agency. That's all she does, is work on finances for projects.
Okay.
So whatever is unique to this particular project, I'm confident she can come up with a system that would support FEMA.
Our requirements.
FEMA requirements,
Okay.
absolutely.
Questions?
Yeah, if I may, just a couple follow-ups. So Doug, if you're full-time at Hammond Asset
Right.
until May or June of 2016, how do you come down here and visit the site?
Well, depends when it starts, but I could work something out with the owners up there. We're certainly going to slow down for a period over the winter. We're not that far away. I could leave for half a day, come down here for a couple hours, and go back up there.
The fact that the Hammond Asset Project is literally less than 5 minutes from our office, when Doug leaves the site, we have support that can go cover the site while he's off-site.
Okay.
If
So-
if there was need for that, we could certainly do that.
Okay. And then how does this scope compare to Riverfield?
Not much different while we're in construction. We were at Riverfield at the onset when we were going to get local funding and state funding, and then all through the design phase. But once we got into construction, we had on-site representation. We had Chuck managing the project. It honestly wasn't too. It's not too dissimilar.
The same level of service? And what I mean is, as far as hours committed to the
That
project?
one might have had a little bit more, because a bigger project, bigger scope, bigger area to canvas and for an inspection. Bigger dollars, that was $15 million. So, yeah, there was probably a little bit more time.
Okay, and then you mentioned the real-time budget updates, which I understand, right? For the things that you have, I'll say not control over, but you're getting payment applications and change orders and the like. How is it dealing with the town and getting what they're spending on soft costs?
Hopefully, it's seamless. If we've done our jobs right early on, a lot of those invoices are coming through us, so we can track those. So early on, we want to sit down and get an analysis of where you have contracts, so we can upload that into our budget document. we were, oh, she's not here. We work quite a bit with Twig,
All right.
you know, and Phil to get, you know, general ledgers for where are you to date? Let's create that. And then once we have that system in place and we know what you've paid to date, we could then track moving forward all of the other expenditures for, again, soft costs, fees, expenses, FF&E. Those are the things that are outside typically, you know, Shawmut's
Right.
control. And then obviously the big ticket items, the pay applications, the
Right.
contingency expenditures, we do track, but with Shawmut.
Right, but are you guys connected right now for Riverfield that you're getting copied on the invoices that go to the town that are outside of the hard costs?
Absolutely.
Yeah, when I got brought on board there in October last year, and we had someone moved on, so I replaced, but, I mean, this book here, we brought this is all the invoices from the project. But we constantly will request general ledgers from Twig, and just did one recently, going through and reconciling the overall budget, especially that job. We're approaching that end where we have some change orders that the district wants to get done, so we have to make sure we're going through and aligning up with our budgets, and it's tough. But yeah, with respect to the town, it's been great to work with the town in that regard.
Okay.
And we haven't had any problems in that regard. Twig always forwards them to me. You know, advertising, there may be some miscellaneous ones that we're not always associated with that, you know, bonding costs, she'll send them to us, insurance costs, risk.
Thank you.
Any other questions? When you establish your fee for your proposal, do you do it, what technique do you use? Do you just build a man-loading chart and you look at our total duration, or how do you do it?
What we do is we take what we know for a project schedule, because our fees are based on schedules of time, not percent of project costs or construction costs. That's not how we operate. So once we know what the duration of our services are, and for this particular case, it was construction. The RFP said, okay, we got bids coming in, and we're going to break ground in September. So we said, okay, September, done by May 2016, create that. And then we load in percents of FTEs. So as I mentioned, 10% for Chuck, maybe 20% for Doug, and then sort of roll that out for the duration, and that gives us the sum of the.
So that would then allow you to tell us what your full-time equivalent is on a weekly basis?
Oh, yeah.
And that full-time equivalent on a weekly basis, you said was 2 days, 3 days? What is your
Well, no,
FTE?
full-time equivalent, you know, we
It's
propose.
a combination of everybody.
Right, you know, so instead of having 40 hours, we're proposing, I think, 16 hours. So 2 days a week. So 16 hours a week will be dedicated to the project.
Everybody understands that.
So Hammond Asset, 40 hours a week. They wanted one person full-time.
Right.
They heard all this dog and pony show, great, just give
Right.
me one guy. Okay.
Right. Andy, Rich, you have anything else?
I don't have any more questions.
Okay, also.
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a 1-minute break while the tape is reset. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Just turn it off and on, it works, but it do.
Twig, we need a short explanation regarding this evening's interviews.
Good evening. In addition to a brief explanation of what happened with this evening's interviews, I also have a couple of documents that I can distribute. One is the matrix of the fees, the number of hours that were proposed by each of the candidates, if you need that. And we also have a standard rating matrix that some committees like to use when evaluating the candidates. And basically, the rating matrix follows very closely the selection criteria that was embedded in the RFP.
Right.
So that everybody knows how they're being rated and so forth. So if you choose to use that, it's available to you. I can distribute it. What happened with the this evening's candidates is that I got an email late morning, I think, that the program manager, the candidate Nafis and Young, had backed out. They're a smallish firm, and the person that they proposed to manage the project is on medical leave. And they just don't have the resources to backfill his absence. And so they would rather back out of the project than
Not staff it right.
that, yeah, correctly,
Right.
thank you. Then, to kind of pile on, I got an email this afternoon from Beacon's Projects Group, who was, I believe, the first candidate to be interviewed, that said they had just been awarded a substantial contract, and they would not have the resources to devote to our project and to properly staff it. And so they were out of the running. And that left Collier's as the last man standing. We were able to move their interview up to an earlier slot. They were good at accommodating that. But essentially, they are the only candidate that was scheduled to interview. There was a fourth candidate, which was SLAM Construction Services. They are an offshoot of SLAM, the architectural business. We did not choose to interview them because their fees were 3 times what the other candidates were. They were in the exceeded $200,000, and it was seen as not affordable.
What's the town's experience been with this candidate?
They're an excellent firm. They were hired by the Riverfield Building Committee. They've done a very, very good job. Chuck Warrington is our primary interface on the project. We see him, I personally see him usually at least once a month. He'll leave an OAC, owner, architect, constructor meeting in the trailer and swing by my office. And they have been extremely responsive to everything that we've asked them to do. And the project got bigger because of the PCBs and the abatement that was required by EPA. The project went from, I think it was 14 million to considerably higher than that when EPA required us to basically take the gymnasium down to the steel studs. And it really didn't throw any marbles under Collier's feet when we just said, okay, here's more work, and they absorbed everything. Their reporting is excellent. I just talked with Chuck because we've got to compare notes on some of the town's financial system to what they are tracking. All their reporting is real time. Which is great because the town's system is not. And that makes it difficult. But as far as their communications, their working association with both the architect and the construction manager has been good and very professional. And I quite honestly, I'd be hard-pressed to find a reason not to hire them. They really have been quite effective in representing us.
How many people did Riverfield interview? How many companies did Riverfield interview before they were selected, since maybe by default we're going to go with that?
I think Riverfield looked at 3.
Okay. Were any of the other 2, like one of these people, or no?
You know, I'd have to go back and look at my records to see.
That's fine. It's just good to know that they were selected from a pool of candidates, even though we don't have the same pool, or a pool.
You don't have a pool.
We don't have a pool.
Or a low pool,
Yeah.
not completely full. Okay, any other comments from your side? That's, okay,
No,
good.
they've done an excellent job.
Thank you.
I just have a quick procedural question. So, given the fact that we did receive 4 proposals and only 1 interviewed, we're okay procurement-wise, if we did go with them?
We are, yes, that's a very good question. What, if we had only received 1, we still would have been fine. The town charter does not require public bidding for professional services. And owner's representation or project management services is considered a professional service. And so it is exempt from the public bidding requirements. We have a policy of posting these RFPs to our website and inviting as many candidates as we can. But if we receive only one proposal, that's...
Well, the committee's also benefited from 4 proposals. It's not like we have one. I mean,
I wasn't concerned about the getting the lay of the land. I just didn't know procurement-wise if we were
Right.
going to be handcuffed by only having one person really
No,
come to the
we
table.
aren't.
That said, I am be interested from the committee about proceeding. I think that we need oversight sooner than later. We have one presentation. Having sat through many of these, that's about the way they go. And it's not supposed to be a beauty contest. It's really supposed to be somebody who you think you can work with, and you don't necessarily buy it on price. It is a professional service, considered by most municipalities as a professional service. So we could go out for another round, but I think we're in a better position than that.
The only question, and we discussed this offline, was the fact that I got the initial impression they were going to be there a lot more. When we started pressing with the FTEs and things like that, we're down to 16 hours.
Right.
Now, 16 hours doesn't seem like, I know, is a normal construction week 40 hours?
Yes.
Okay. So again, really, are we getting much coverage? I mean, is this going to be they'll just stay for 8 hours one day, or 2 days, 8 hours, and then the other 3 days, nothing, or they're going to be there for 2 or 3 hours one day? I mean, that's the one thing I didn't understand. Maybe, I suppose the question really is, can you talk to the building chairman at Riverfield and get a sense of that?
Well,
Is that against
Twig
the
would probably
rules?
already know that because she's there, but, so fill us in on that question about whether or not typically the town considers 16 hours or 2 days a week to be adequate.
It really does depend on the project. When we were looking for an owner's rep back in early 2002, 3, 4, we had 3 construction projects going on all at the same time, and that required more staffing than what this one does. But when I write the RFPs, I typically consult with, in this case, with Mr. Bradley, to get a sense of how much time do we think this project is going to require, because we're asking the consultants to give us a fee proposal, and they don't know whether to base that proposal on 15 weeks, 30 weeks, or 40 weeks full-time. And so we tell them, these are the tasks, and you tell us roughly how much time you believe it's going to take. And we give them some parameters, like you're expected to be at the OAC meetings once a week, and you're expected to go to the building committee meetings every other week. And then they really look at the job and figure out what they believe it's going to require for them to manage it. And 15 weeks is or 15 hours a week is probably a pretty average or pretty reasonable for a project of this size and complexity and duration.
If we have delays in the project, and again, the one thing I know is numbers, and again, I take the dollars they do, I divide it on what my hourly rate is, and I know how many hours I can devote. If the project goes on, what happens then? You know, they've used up their budget. Do they just keep going, or do they come back to us and say that this was all predicated on X number of weeks, you're going another 7 weeks, and you want us to have 16 hours for another 7 weeks? What happens then? I mean, that's the only thing that I'm really concerned about. Is this guy sitting down and taking a piece of paper and says, okay, for this amount of hours, at my rate, I can afford to devote 16
That's right.
hours.
That's why I asked them how they built the fee. Did they build it by the man-loading chart over weeks, months, and the project duration? Did they have the project duration? Did we call out the project duration? He referred to it, but I don't think he gave it to us in
I had
months.
a duration. It turns out that the whole duration slid
No,
forward by.
but start to finish,
But
is it?
I think I had 10 months duration. I'd have to go back and look at the RFP, and I can.
You know, it's
But I believe it was roughly 10 months.
it's not an exact science with them trying to figure out our strengths and weaknesses and what we need versus what they're delivering. It's not an easy task to, and that's why you often see numbers that are a variance when you have more than one proposal for construction management oversight. Steve, you were going to add
Well,
in?
the list that we all put together in the second RFP was exhaustive.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things to do. So my suggestion would be, is that we narrow in on what we really need, go back to them with the GMP schedule, because the financial close isn't part of the GMP schedule. And I think, Twig, I think there was 9 months they had put, based on the number of dates we've given them.
Okay.
We have that in the
So
spreadsheet.
it's almost a 10.5-month schedule,
correct.
plus or minus. They're going to want a month to two to close. The number that they proposed is not anywhere near what it'll be at the end. Is my gut right now. So my suggestion is we talk about, is it wise to have a construction administrator run around the site 1 or 2 days a week for an hour? And again, I understand the role. Like Kevin said, he's probably going to be, I mean, we've got enough people, maybe 3 sets of eyes is too many in certain situations where we need their help more focused in something different. So I think we should talk about what the 4 or 5 things are that we really need.
Right.
Have them take a look at the GMP schedule, come back and tell us what it's going to be, is my suggestion.
Maybe I missed something. When I asked him the biggest risk, he said the biggest risk is the fact is people running around at the beach area. I mean, but I don't think that's what we really need them for, right? I mean, I think your point is well taken. I mean, if you go back, there's certain things that we need them for. I don't think we need them just to make sure that you guys are going to create an OSHA violation, or your ladder is at the wrong angle or something like that. Or, because remember, one of the issues we had is you're going to put trucks in, and the people walking in, they call up and say, I think that's a, again, maybe I missed something.
I don't think you're missing it. I think that was not a good answer that the kids, you were asking specifically because you introduced yourself as somebody who's going to be interested on the financial side, and you got a kids in the park answer. Now, we all know that that's a big risk, and we do need a set of eyes down there. We need it from Kevin, we need it from Shaman, and we need it from our project management oversight. And we even need it from Rich, who's going to be driving by often, he said, way back.
I'll stick with that.
Good. So what we're really coming down here is financial control and financial administrative control. And I agree with Steve. We ought to take, after listening to them and after knowing what we've learned over the past 3 or 4 months, since we wrote the RFP scope, we just ought to clean it up, have a Twig go back to them and make sure that they're comfortable with what our requirements are, and go. I mean, my big concern is we're going to have people stumbling over people, as far as, I mean, and so we want the most effective relationship. So I think scoping them out further to make sure that we're getting what we need. We don't really need the playground issue as much as we need FEMA controls or cost controls or whatever we wanted, or change order management.
Right. I mean, because in my experience, at times, we get the same spreadsheet that Shawmut provides the project manager in a different letterhead, and now we have 3 people talking about the hard cost, what the GMP looks like, and that's a waste of hours. I don't think we need that. The soft cost helping us out with there, because we're all concerned about the cost at the end of the day, and there's one bucket of contingency, I think that's important. I was so surprised to see a construction manager here, or that level. I was hoping to see the financial control person.
Right.
So, personally. So I just don't want, because my experience, again, as I said, is to have someone take Shawmut's stuff and put it on a different spreadsheet to show us the same things. We'll be sitting in these building committee meetings hearing the same things over and over again, so.
Do you think they did enough due diligence before they came in tonight, or they thought, based upon what they saw at Riverfield, that they had the inside track?
No.
In other words,
No, not at all.
I don't know, would they,
No.
should they have done more due diligence in order to do this?
No, I don't think so. It's a small
No,
project. If it was a $60 million high school, a brand-new high school, it would be a different presentation.
Right, and compared to the other RFPs, their level of detail of what would be done
Was-
was pretty similar. So
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think they fluffed it,
So,
except for the one school
Yeah.
comment, but I'll let that go.
my feeling would be that we should move on this. We spent a lot of time on it. We've been out to market twice. So one way we could do this is to do exactly what we just mentioned, and that is have a vote in favor of retaining this firm as project management oversight, assuming conditioned upon clarification of scope and schedule.
And cost.
Well, scope, cost, and schedule, right. Clarification of their fee based on scope and cost. Before we go down that road, Rich, you've been listening to this, do you have any?
I think that when we initially took a look at this, Steve and myself and others, we were definitely overzealous in our requirements for the oversight person. The other thing, I completely agree. I think that there's enough between the structural engineer and his daily visits. It's going to be a lot of redundancy that we should be taking a look at. The only thing that I would caution, I'm going by gut here, okay? I think I hear some scope movement from this particular firm. I think they're going to have to you have to button down exactly what you want them to do and make sure that they adhere to it.
Yeah, I think the scope review, I have to say that it is often the case that the owner goes back to the consultants and this kind of a program and recasts the scope after the interviews and so forth, because each entity, each party is trying to find their way with the other as far as these types of services are concerned. They need to really gauge our strengths and weaknesses, and we need to go forward with our strengths and weaknesses. And on our strengths, they ought to leave us alone. On our weaknesses, they need to infill for us. That's really what we're trying to do.
Were they aware that the other two people backed out? Were they aware that they're the only horse at the horse race today?
They were not initially. No.
You
They-
say,
They
No, not
realized
initially,
now
but
when they
when
realized
they
there
came
was
tonight, they
someone
knew
else
that they
here
were the only one presenting?
after they got here.
but they already had put in a proposal with all their
They-
detail.
Yeah, nothing in their proposal changed.
Any other questions? No. Rich, I agree with you about overkill on the RFP, but on the other hand, that RFP reflected a lot of our uncertainty at the time. I think we're more comfortable now. We have a proper, appropriate contingency of 10%. I think we're more confident about the scope. We're more confident because the market's spoken about the bids. I think overall, we probably feel better about the project. So I think we could cut those requirements down in this process of rescoping and confirming schedule and cost.
Yeah, I would suggest that perhaps we do it, or Twig does it, or the subcommittee does it, submit it to them, and have them sign it as acceptable to them.
Yeah. And that's not an unusual situation for you, is it?
Not
As
at
far
all.
as confirmation, their scope, cost, and schedule? Steve, could committee rely on you to guide that for us?
Do I have a choice in that answer? Yes, of course.
And anybody else you need from the committee? I mean, it's really taking this detailed scope that you're so familiar with, and so are you, for that matter, right? And taking what we've learned tonight, taking what we've learned about the project since the public bidding stage, and asking it to be confirmed. I don't really have a problem with the 16 hours a week. I'm a little worried that they may not have looked at the entire schedule, and I don't think they're used to coming in right at construction. I think they're used to coming in a lot earlier. So this isn't a normal project. Why did I say that?
Well, yeah, we're asking them to go from 0 to 60,
Right.
very, very quickly. And I think they're certainly capable of doing that. And what we have found on some other projects is that the dollar value doesn't necessarily indicate complexity.
Right. Right.
And I think that is the case here.
Rich, can you, when you coming back, or where are you?
Yeah, I'm, the end of this month, yes,
Okay. But you're emailable, right?
absolutely. Oh, yeah. Oh,
So maybe,
I'll start and distribute something around
Yeah.
to you, and then
Oh,
you can,
okay.
whoever else is on the committee, Rich, whatever.
yeah, the three of
Jane,
you was,
yeah.
the original group, working group was the three of you, so.
Okay. I just had one question for Twig. So what is the typical fee arrangement in a contract for this type of service? Is it T&M with a cap, or is it flat monthly fees? How are you typically awarding these?
We've worked at a couple of different ways, depending on what the project requirements are, and who the consultants are, quite honestly. For the Riverfield project, they're billing at a estimated hours and a flat rate per month. So the fee is, I believe it's the same month to month to month to month. On some other projects, we have, we'll set a monthly fee, but if it goes considerably over that, because more work is required, the consultant has we always ask for the hourly rates, and they can bill against that.
How are we going to do this? Are they
I would ask for a fee per month based on their estimated 15 hours per month.
Right. and
16.
Well, whatever it is, we'll figure out what it is, because it's probably going to change.
Or 15
Maybe.
hours per week.
Yeah, I would rather see us on a cost per month than I would.
Right, and do they bill?
I
so
like
we
the
know-
budget schedule myself.
Well, I just don't want to be dealing with timesheets or, do they have reimbursable costs, travel and so
They
forth?
They
did.
put reimbursables in.
I can distribute this. They had,
We have the spreadsheet,
oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
the matrix.
They estimated $10,000. Their estimate was $67,500
Right.
for fee
Well, and that's the other question, yeah.
and roughly $10,000 a month for reimbursable expenses.
10,000 total, I think, not a month.
Yes, or 10,000 total, I'm sorry, yes. And that's billed as actual, and we audit those statements every month.
But, but Jim, I will think about it and come up with a recommendation to just have a flat fee per month. There may be certain months that may be a little bit heavier than others. You don't need to spend 16 hours a week in the first couple of months.
Right.
Well, what I'm just saying is, there's, knowing the business, there's ways to price. So I want to make sure we'll work through the scope and get something out.
So I think that, not hearing a motion, I'll start one, and that is that the committee approve.
Just one quick question, Jim.
Yeah, Rich, go ahead.
I don't recall hearing certified payrolls. Who's handling that?
Certified payrolls on this project, Twig? Is that a requirement?
It will be, yes. It's over $100,000 or $400,000.
You're
for
tracking
new
certified
construction.
payrolls?
Yeah, we handle that.
Yeah. And they're all,
Oh, it's a
copies are all
Shawmut
kept in our
responsibility?
office.
That's a Shawmut responsibility,
Yes.
Rich?
Did you get that, Rich?
Yeah, yes, it's Shawmut's responsibility is what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
but Rich, to your point, I hope not to drive everybody crazy, but we'll insist on a kickoff meeting with the engineer, construction manager, and project management oversight, purchasing, our committee or representatives of our committee to make sure, again, that our roles and responsibilities are straight. We're bordering on overkill here, but what we've learned about this project is it can come back and bite us, so we're going to want to do it right.
One of the, if I can just add on to that quickly,
Yep.
one of the other things that we do as a standard practice is a contract exchange, so that we make sure that all parties have each other's contracts. I think you all have yours, and we'll make sure that Collier's has the A&E contracts and the CM contracts and vice versa. Everybody is fully informed as to what our contractual obligations are between parties. And that's just all projects.
Okay, so What I was hoping for was a motion that might contain the following, that we retain, the building committee retain Collier's International for the construction, for project management oversight services, based on their proposal to the town, that a subcommittee of the building committee work with purchasing to reconcile our needs with their proposal and make sure that their duration is correct and that we have a monthly billing number that's satisfactory. So again, to Steve's comment, scope, cost, and schedule, the classics. So having said that, does that get us close to where we want to be?
I'll second that.
There's a second?
Who first?
I made it.
You made the motion? Okay.
Oh, I thought that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
I was trying to,
It
yeah.
was scribbling first.
Rich, did you get that?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Okay. Any comments from the technical side on this?
I think the most important thing you have to do is just come to terms with what you want the
Right.
project oversight to be.
Right, right.
And whether you want a little bit or a lot.
Well, it's clearly administrative and cost control. I mean, we have confidence in the technical side. We've been working for 2 years with this team. We could have built 3 of these probably in the same time period, but this is where we are. So, any comments? Like to move the motion?
Yeah.
I don't know whether somebody, you just moved the motions, that's great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Against? Abstentions? Thank you. So we're on our way in that regard.
Thank
One
you.
more step. Back to the agenda. Thought there was going to be a short meeting.
One interview.
Is there such a short meeting? Right, has it been a short meeting?
If you had all 3 interviews, you would have needed sleeping bags.
Yeah, right. No, we would have moved a lot more quicker. A lot more. Shawmut, any updates as far as the project is concerned?
Our GMP amendment is into the town purchasing department, waiting for sign-off, so that's where we are right now.
So that's where you are. Anything new on budget or anything that,
No, I mean, the only thing I'd like to bring up is the letter of intent to the subcontractors that we had notified of the November 15th date. What we need to do possibly with that, Twig, I'm not, do we extend another letter out to the subcontractors?
Well, this may be an offline conversation, but to reiterate what Jim said of the schedule, the funding request is going to the Board of Finance, and then it goes to the RTM for approval. If the RTM approves it on December 14th, there is a 14-day waiting period where the approval is subject to referendum. So if we get past that 14 days and no residents petition for a referendum, the motion passes, the funding is in place. So we can't, the purchasing authority cannot sign that GMP until December 28th.
Okay.
Because that's when the funding becomes available.
are you getting questions regarding the start date?
No, we're not getting any questions from the subcontractors. My concern is that our letter out to the subcontractors noted that we needed some type of letter of intent from the town so we could issue out a letter of intent to the subcontractors by November 15th.
I can probably draft something for you if you'll take a look at it, Jim.
All right, and Bob, Mayor, and that would be,
We've done a
it would be
couple of
contingent
things.
upon funding,
It's
Correct.
always contingent.
which everybody
upon-
knows about.
That's
Would you take
essentially what it
that, would you
says.
take that through Bob and
I will.
the Selectman's office? Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be helpful to you?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. I'll get you something.
thank you.
Okay.
Anything else as far as the project's concerned? Yes.
And we still have some time in this, but we may want to, in the near future, restart the building permit process. We have all the department sign-offs, but we haven't pulled the permit for two reasons. We needed Shawmut to pull the permit, first of all, so all that GMP stuff has to be worked out. And also, I think the sewer connection has to be cut and capped before the WPCA will sign off on the card. So I just figured I'd bring that up.
Is there anything we should be doing right now?
What's holding us back from just pulling them?
Maybe there isn't any more. You guys need your letter of intent before you file that?
There's no cost for the permits.
There's no
Yeah,
cost.
we can go ahead and
Yeah, I think you should.
pull that.
Yeah.
You
All
know,
right.
if they started doing permit review and everything fell through and didn't go,
Yeah,
they're not going to be happy.
Yeah,
Well,
we don't
that
wanna be-
process already happened,
So
so.
then we can.
Yeah, let's keep going on that.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
why don't we just regroup next week?
Thank you. That concludes the agenda with the exception of public comment. Hearing no public comment, new business?
Nope.
Yes.
Sorry, I know it's 8. I know, you were so close. So, they brought up a really interesting point. Besides safety of the site to make sure no one gets hurt, there's a whole concept now that there's going to be workers around children. And is there any type of background check you do on your contractors, subcontractors, anybody coming to that site?
Yes.
Thank you, Twig. I don't think we've ever talked about it, have we?
We do.
Okay. I mean, I get with schools, but
We do. Anytime we have construction in a school, or in this case around children, what we do is the construction manager gives us a list of employees, addresses, birth dates, whatever it is the police need, and then the police run those, run that through their database, and we determine whether an employee is okay to work on the site or not.
okay, and you're
Based
aware
on
of
that.
this, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That was quick.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anything else as far as new business or other business as far as the committee is concerned?
Mr. Chairman, when is the next meeting scheduled? And one more thing, are we looking to turn out in force at these next two meetings at the Board of Finance and the RTM? Is that what, my sense of what you said before would look if they all, the whole?
I think as many committee members as possible to go to the Board of Finance and the RTM. You'll get a notice by email, as usual, as far as what the dates are, but basically it's the 1st of December, the 7th of December, and the 14th of December. And Kevin, I would think if you could do the 7th, because that's where most of the questions happen in RTM committee.
And our next scheduled meeting is when?
December 10th?
December?
Yeah, unless we wanted to call a special meeting in the interim, but obviously the next meeting is on
You said that
Thanksgiving.
originally you thought that might be canceled, but that will still move ahead then on December 10th?
December 10th will be canceled?
I thought in that agenda you sent me, when I first came on, you sent me a whole list of dates, and I thought you indicated that night. It doesn't really matter.
I'm unfam,
Okay.
is it a Jewish holiday?
No, not that I know of.
We have our second meeting in,
On Thanksgiving. I
Yeah.
mean, that's when it would normally fall.
right.
I'm not coming.
So I don't
Again,
think
you're
we're
gonna
going
miss
to
it
probably
for the
get light
second year in
turnout.
a row?
For the second year in a row, I'm going to miss Thanksgiving meeting.
So we'll meet on the 10th then.
That's when we're scheduled next. And then the other thing, I guess one other piece of new business is that at the December 10th meeting, we're going to have to establish a schedule
Yeah.
for the upcoming 2016, because we have to send that into the town clerk. Informal poll, Thursday evenings. I'm going to plan on retaining Thursday evenings as the schedule going forward, unless anybody has objections to that. Second and fourth Thursdays in November. Or in
Thursdays?
Okay.
Why was everyone looking at me?
I'm not,
Because you're the one
I
who's
just have
always
a
objecting.
20-yard stare right now.
Oh,
so.
okay.
We may want to talk, we have to have a startup meeting, classic kind of startup meeting, and we may want to talk about the 2 or 3 member change order committee meeting once a month and the building committee meeting once a month. And that would relieve a lot of,
No increase in
in salary.
Yeah, your bone. Are committee members invited to your management meetings?
Absolutely.
Sure, absolutely. Anybody can come. We typically would have a weekly OAC meeting.
So we can, as long as we don't have a quorum.
Right.
These guys probably aren't all going to come, so.
Right.
No.
Okay, that said, Rich, you got anything left on your agenda?
No, I'm done.
Any well said? All right, that said, hearing nothing else, motion to adjourn, made, seconded, thank you.